We're going to take a look at an off-camber turn here with a couple riders coming through. We've got Linnea Rook, who's a Fluidride instructor, leading Kendall through here. Kendall was looking amazing in his left-hand turn, just struggling a little bit here in his right-hand turn, which is actually pretty normal. One of the things that he's not getting here is this same kind of bike body separation that Linnea is able to get. So what we notice here, just looking at this in full speed, is we can see quite clearly that Linnea's saddle is touching her inside thigh, whereas that Kendall's saddle is touching his outside thigh. So we need to change these dynamics, and we're going to talk about why we want to change these dynamics. So first of all, an off-camber turn is essentially the opposite of a berm. So we have an angle here that's kind of unfavorable to the bicycle. And what this angle means is that only the cornering row of knobbies is going to be on the ground as we move through here. So as we're moving through, the tire's up on its cornering edge. And because it's up on its cornering edge here, we want to make sure that we're truly pressing down into that inside row of knobbies. And we're only going to really be able to do this if the bike is leaning onto that inside row of knobbies. And we want to avoid leaning the rider too much here. If Linnea were to lean too much in this turn, maybe to an angle like this, what we'd see is that her tires would very easily slip out in this direction, and that's not what we want. So what she's getting here instead is she's getting really good downward force on her tires. So she's getting a really good downward force here on the tires on the inside row of knobbies, and that's giving her a lot of traction and control. The other thing she's getting is the ability to swing her outside hip around. So her outside hip is actually coming around through the turn here. And that's because she's up over her body. She's up over her legs. She's more or less in a standing posture, almost with a vertical outside leg here. And that's allowing her to raise the elbow and do a lot of different things that are starting to help her create bike body separation. Essentially, it's the being centered over the bottom bracket with the outside leg and the raising of the elbow throughout the turn that allows us to get this kind of bike body separation. As we see Kendall come through here, we're going to notice something different happening. So this is all a positional thing. He's just very slightly out of position moving in this direction. So he's in here, we can really see this pretty clearly. His hips are just a little bit far back. So hips are just a tiny bit far back here. We can see that. And so he's not truly up over this leg in a really vertical manner. And we want to just get him up over the leg a little more. And what that's going to allow him to do as he comes through here is to drive a little bit more over that leg, and that's going to essentially bring his hips very slightly forward. And as he does that, he would actually then be able to rotate the hips through the turn. What we're going to see here is that he's actually not able to rotate the hips much through the turn here because he's ever so slightly too far back on the bicycle, and this is putting him in a position where he's not able to actually generate bike body separation. So we start to see the saddle there contacting the outside thigh, and you kind of just see him drifting toward the outside of the turn here. I mean, he does fine coming through here, but he's kind of at his speed limit, and he's getting really close to the edge there. And you can still see that even at this point where he should be exiting the turn, he still has kind of an essence of facing straight forward instead of really having the body turned like we saw with Linnea when she came through. So simply by getting him up over that leg a little more, getting him in a little bit more vertical stance up over this outside leg here, is going to allow him to get in a position to really create a bit more hip rotation here at the outside hip to allow him to exit the turn. And that hip rotation combined with the good elbow raise that he's created there is going to be what creates bike body separation. So go out and give this a try. Work on some flatland turns where you'd also want some bike body separation. And as you sweep through your footwork, you're going to think about sweeping also through the outside elbow. So as the outside foot goes down, the outside elbow reaches up, and that's going to help us create this nice healthy bike body separation.